Did center just become the biggest concern on the Baltimore Ravens roster? Ravens Flock, we have spent most of this offseason talking about everything Baltimore has going right. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, the young receivers, Jesse Minter's defense, and a roster that ESPN recently ranked second in their entire NFL. But there is one position that continues to make me nervous, and after what just happened to Danny Pinter, that concern just got a lot bigger. Pinter suffered a torn patellar tendon during practice, taking another option out of Baltimore's competition at center, and now we're getting dangerously close to the regular season. So this isn't just some little training camp competition anymore. Baltimore needs an answer because somebody has to line up directly in front of Lamar Jackson week 1. Somebody has to identify what's happening up front. Somebody has to communicate with the rest of that offensive line. Somebody has to snap the football cleanly, and somebody has to keep pressure out of Lamar's face. That's why I think the question surrounding this team has changed. It isn't, does Baltimore have enough weapons? Yes. It isn't, can Lamar Jackson carry this offense? We've seen him do it. It's not even, can Derrick Henry still dominate? The bigger concern might be much simpler. Can Baltimore protect the middle of this offense well enough for all those weapons to actually matter? Because you can have Lamar, Henry, Zay, and all the offensive talent you want, but if defenses start collapsing the pocket directly up the middle, your entire offense changes. But here's what really stood out. The Ravens were not exactly sitting on a completely settled center situation before Pinter went down, and that's what makes this injury so important. Baltimore was already searching for an answer. Let's make something clear. Danny Pinter's injury didn't create Baltimore's uncertainty at center. It made the existing question even bigger. Baltimore entered camp already needed somebody to separate themselves in this competition, and now one of those options is gone. The injury is significant. A torn patellar tendon isn't something where we're wondering whether Pinter might be back at practice next week. Baltimore now has to move forward without him as part of the immediate competition, so naturally attention shifts towards the players who are still standing. And one name Ravens fans need to start paying very close attention to, Jovaughn Gwyn, because Gwyn reportedly had himself a strong showing during Baltimore's joint practices with Minnesota, and there was one play in particular that caught my attention. Gwyn helped open up a running lane for Derrick Henry. Now, one block in August doesn't make somebody your week 1 starting center. I'm not doing that, but this is exactly what Baltimore needs to see right now. Somebody taking advantage of the opportunity, because this competition isn't about finding somebody who simply knows how to snap the football. Baltimore needs somebody who can hold up against NFL defensive tackles, somebody who can function in a running game, somebody who can communicate, somebody who can handle the mental responsibilities of playing in the middle of the offensive line, and somebody Lamar can trust. That's where this gets interesting, because Baltimore's overall roster is getting a lot of respect. ESPN's roster evaluation has the Ravens ranked number 2 in the NFL. Think about that. Second best roster in football. That's Super Bowl level talent. But even within that evaluation, the interior offensive line was identified as an area of concern. And that's what makes the timing of this injury so frustrating. One of the few areas where Baltimore already had legitimate questions just lost another option. So now the pressure increases on Gwyn and everybody else competing for those interior snaps. And Baltimore doesn't have unlimited time to figure this out. Week 1 is coming, but that's not even the biggest problem, because center isn't just another position on the offensive line. For this Baltimore offense, instability there could affect almost everything Declan Doyle wants to do. When people hear about offensive line problems, the first thing everybody thinks about is sacks, protect Lamar Jackson. And obviously, that's extremely important. But I think this center situation goes much deeper than that. Think about what we have learned about Declan Doyle's offense. Lamar has already talked about how much this system challenges players mentally, getting out of the huddle, get to the line, identify the defense, process what you're seeing, eliminate possibilities, and get the offense into position to execute. Now, put an unsettled center directly in the middle of that operation. That's why this matters. The quarterback and center relationship is critical. Those two players have to be on the same page. Protection, communication matters. Timing matters. The exchange matters. Handling defensive movement matters. And when something breaks down directly up the middle, Lamar doesn't always have somewhere to step. Edge pressure is one thing. A quarterback can sometimes climb the pocket, but when the pocket gets destroyed from the inside, Now you are attacking the quarterback space immediately, and here's what nobody is talking about. This could affect Derrick Henry too, because everybody wants to imagine Henry getting downhill, breaking tackles, running through linebackers, and wearing defenses down. But how does that happen consistently? Somebody has to move people at the line of scrimmage, especially inside. If Baltimore can't generate movement between the tackles, now defenders are meeting Henry earlier. Now you're getting 2nd and 8 instead of 2nd and 4. Now Baltimore is constantly playing behind schedule, and that affects Declan Doyle's entire playbook. That's why that Gwyn route opening the lane for Henry matters to me. Not because it proves he's the answer, but because that's the kind of football Baltimore needs from whoever wins this job. Protect Lamar, create lanes for Henry, communicate, don't make mental mistakes, and don't become the weakness defensive coordinators attack every Sunday. Because believe me, if Baltimore enters week 1 with a certainty inside, NFL defensive coordinators will test it again and again and again until Baltimore proves they can stop it. And this is where things get really interesting. Baltimore has to decide whether the answer is already in the building or whether Eric DeCosta eventually needs to look outside of it. One weakness can change a Super Bowl roster. That's why I'm taking this center situation seriously, because Baltimore doesn't need to rebuild their football team. They don't have 10 major holes. This roster is loaded. And when you are that close, sometimes one weakness matters more. Look around the offense. You have a superstar quarterback in Lamar Jackson. You have Derrick Henry. You've committed major money to Zay Flowers. You've got Rashad Bateman. You've got young receivers fighting their way into the conversation. You've got talent at tight end. The pieces are there. That's why I don't want the conversation around the center to become, well, somebody will figure it out. No, Baltimore has championship expectations. You can't just hope the middle of your offensive line works itself out. And this is where Eric DeCosta has a decision to make. Give Gwyn and the remaining candidates every opportunity to win this job. Absolutely. That's what preseason is for, but you also need to be watching the rest of the NFL, because roster cuts are coming. Teams are going to make difficult decisions. Veteran offensive line could become available. Trades could become possible. And if Baltimore gets to the point where nobody has clearly taken control of this job, I think Eric DeCosta has to be willing to move. That doesn't necessarily mean some blockbuster trade. You don't need an all-pro at every position. Sometimes you just need a veteran who is reliable, somebody who understands protections, somebody who won't get overwhelmed physically, somebody Lamar can communicate with. Because here's the nightmare scenario. Baltimore enters the regular season with one of football's most talented rosters, and opposing defenses discover that they can attack the A-gaps, disrupt Lamar's timing, make Henry change direction before he reaches the line, and force Baltimore's offense to operate under constant pressure. That's exactly the type of weakness playoff defenses expose. Buffalo would look for it, Kansas City would look for it, Cincinnati would look for it, Pittsburgh would definitely look for it. You don't get to hide offensive line weaknesses against good defensive fronts. Eventually, somebody finds them, but there may be one reason Baltimore doesn't need to panic just yet, because somebody currently on this roster still has an opportunity to take this job, and I think we're about to find out very quickly whether that happens. So here's what I think the Ravens do. My prediction, Baltimore gives Jovaughn Gwyn every opportunity to prove he can become the answer, and based on what I'm hearing from Minnesota, I think he has a legitimate chance to take advantage of it, but I am putting an expiration date on that patience. Because we're getting close to real football. This isn't May, this isn't OTAs, this isn't the beginning of training camp. Baltimore needs to know what its best 5 offensive linemen look like. So over these remaining preseason practices and games, I'm watching Gwyn very closely. How does he handle power? How does he communicate? What happens when defenses start moving people around before the snap? Can Baltimore consistently run behind him? Does Lamar look comfortable with him? And most importantly, does the offensive line function better when he's in there? If those answers continue trending in the right direction, my prediction is Baltimore stays in-house. They let Gwyn take control of the position, and they continue developing the line around him. But if Baltimore gets through the remaining of preseason and we're still asking who's the center, then I'm making a phone call. I'm checking the waiver wire. I'm looking at veterans. I'm calling teams with offensive line depth, because at that point, you're not protecting a training camp competition. You're protecting Lamar Jackson in a Super Bowl window, and those are two completely different things. My bigger prediction is this. I don't think the center destroys Baltimore's season. I think the Ravens eventually find a workable answer. I'm also predicting that the interior offensive line becomes one of the first things opposing defenses test when the regular season begins, and that's when we'll get our real answer, because if Baltimore can hold up inside, if Lamar has room to operate, if Derrick Henry has lanes to attack, this offense has everything it needs to be dangerous. But if they can't, then one of the best rosters in football could have a weakness capable of changing the entire season. So let's answer the original question. Did center just become Baltimore's biggest concern? For me, yes. Not because I think the offensive line is doomed, not because I'm saying Jovaughn Gwyn can't play, and definitely not because one injury means Baltimore suddenly has a bad football team. It's because when I look across this roster, there aren't many places where I see this much uncertainty, and Danny Pinter's injury removes another possible answer. Now somebody has to step forward. Maybe it's Gwyn, maybe another player wins the job, maybe Eric DeCosta eventually brings somebody else into Baltimore. But whatever the answer is, Baltimore needs to find it fast, because Lamar Jackson doesn't need perfection in front of him. Derrick Henry doesn't need 5 All-Pros blocking for him, but they do need stability. And if Baltimore finds that stability at center, then this conversation could disappear completely by October. But until somebody proves it, center is the position I'm watching closer than any other spot on this Ravens offense. Ravens flock. Now I want to know what you would do. Will you give Jovaughn Gwyn the opportunity to win this starting center job, or should Eric DeCosta go find a veteran before week 1? And if you're going outside of the building, tell me who you want Baltimore to target. Let me know your comments below, and if you enjoyed another episode of Ravens Intel, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate you all for watching the videos on Gridiron Flock TV. I'm gonna continue to bring you all the updated news when it comes to the Ravens, and you already know, we out.